Hello and welcome back to my channel.
You showed me how to live love, so tell me what you're thinking of.
I have been a big fan of Notion since I started using it in around December 2020, I think, and I filmed a Notion tour back in January 2021, so I thought it was about time that I gave you an updated video because quite a lot has changed. A lot of my pages and my workflows and my systems have evolved over the years because I've obviously done a study abroad year, I've transitioned from my second year into my final year, and I'm very excited to announce that this video is actually sponsored by Notion themselves, so thank you so much. This honestly feels like the biggest honor. So if you're not aware of what Notion is, it's basically a completely customizable workspace where you can create different systems for different parts of your life. I found it so useful over the last year and a half to basically offload everything that I'm trying to think about and balance. So whether that's my university workload, my social media workload, any other projects, and visually organize it all. And because of this, it's honestly made a massive difference to my work-life balance, which I think is something that's sometimes really hard to achieve as a student when you're pretty much responsible for all of your time. But instead of just telling you about it, I'm just gonna show you and give you a whistle-stop tour of everything that's new, starting with my Life Hub. So if you ever watched my first Notion tour, I never had this kind of Life Hub setup. Instead, I had just lots of pages for different parts of my life that were listed on the left-hand side. But in the interest of achieving a work-life balance, I have now accumulated and organized all of those into one big page. So I've got this pretty cover here, I've got a nice sunflower to go with it as the icon, and then I've got a quote that I thought kind of fit the theme of the page. The quote kind of sounds negative, but it's not. It's just to remind myself that I shouldn't be a perfectionist the whole time. So at the top here we have the three kind of main areas of my life currently, and that is university, YouTube, and general life. I didn't really know what to call that column, if you couldn't tell. Then further down, this is my to-do table and my scheduled to-dos, which is just another to-do table under a different name. The difference is that my general to-do table is just a list of things that I need to do, and I've further broken these down into quick ticks, which are tasks that should take me like 5 minutes or less, tasks which are things that are going to take me an hour or two, and then projects which are things that are elongated over a longer period of time. Then every week I update my scheduled to-dos, and as you can see, I just plug in those certain things that I need to do on my to-do table onto a certain day of the week so I can work out when I'm gonna complete everything. I also have a little task archive column here, so when I've finished something, instead of deleting it, I just pull it into that folder. I don't tend to really delete anything on my Notion. Even when I've sort of revamped and no longer have a need for certain pages, I will put those also into my general archive folder on the left-hand menu. But going back up to the three columns at the top, these are the main pages that I use on my Notion. So under university, we've got Copenhagen and we've got Leeds, and my laptop's gonna die. Brilliant. Okay, back to where I was. As you can see, all of my Notion is fairly simplistic. I have always personally preferred my pages like this. Notion is a very, very complex and comprehensive tool. You can do so much with it that I'm not showing in this video, but simplistic and cohesive works well for me, so that is how my workspace is set up. So in my Copenhagen folder, I have a moving list that I had when I was moving to Denmark, just things that I needed to remember, and I also have a moving back home checklist that I used to make sure that I was doing everything that I needed to do before I moved back home a few weeks ago. ago. Then we have probably the page that has been most shown in my videos recently, and this is my semester 2 checklist. This is how I keep on top of all of my work throughout the semester. So this is actually a pretty simple table on Notion. Across the top I just have my different modules, and then down the side I just have whatever week of the semester it is. And then every week I just plug into here the lectures that I have that week, the reading that I need to do, and any other tasks such as watching videos, doing a little quiz, whether or not there's an exercise class that week. Unfortunately, you can't actually add checklists into tables yet, so instead I have just put 2 brackets and then a slash in the middle of it when I've completed that task. And I've found that this has been the most effective way to keep on top of everything out of all systems that I've used in the past. I'll definitely be applying this system when I go back to university in September in my final year, but for now in my Leeds page are just a load of random lists. The one that I've used most recently is actually this modules one in my final year section, and I used the database function on Notion to basically decide which modules I wanted to take in my final year. And this was so useful for visually planning which ones worked with one another in terms of credits, which ones were compulsory and discovery and optional modules. And then I also duplicated those tables as well to come up with other combinations that I could possibly take. Then in my YouTube section I have 3 folders. It's worth pointing out that a lot of my YouTube stuff isn't actually on my personal Notion. I have a shared workspace with my management agency 16th, and this is where a lot of the content planning will take place. So I only really have the kind of personal things on mine, like my video scripts, which is under this video plans page. So for example, when I was planning out this video, the 10 things that you needed to know, I just write it out all here, and then I use these toggles to show just the thing that I want to speak about in that moment, and this just helps me when I'm filming. There's not much on my content inspo page. This is a relatively new page, so I'm just collecting kind of things that I see here and there as inspiration. So I really liked this thumbnail, for example, so I've just stuck a screenshot of that in my Notion. And then this links page is pretty self-explanatory. It's just quick links to all of my different social medias in case I need to share them somewhere. Then in my life section I have a few financial pages. So this is my monthly expenses page. It pretty much just does what it says on the tin, and this is how I try to organize my monthly finances. This is pretty outdated, to be fair, because I was really bad at keeping on top of things when I was in Copenhagen. This direct debit one has my different monthly expenses. This is very outdated. It's from 2020, so I feel like this is kind of okay for me to show you because this is not representative of what it's like right now. But once again, this is on a database, so I've just put in all the amounts. You can make a sum at the end of it, which is great because you don't have to do the maths yourself, and you can also organize it into different categories. So if I wanted to just look at my technology expenses, for example, I can filter the database to just show those properties. This table directly below is supposed to be a kind of general expenses tracker, but on this page I also have a weekly budget which I'm supposed to be following. I'm just going to show you a blank version of this because I don't want to show you too much financial information in this video. But when I first moved to Denmark, this is how I attempted to stay on top of my finances. So I created a planned budget for the week, and then every week I would fill in what I actually spent money on, but I've archived all of those to the little folder below. So that's pretty much it for my monthly expenses. Below that are my monthly reflections, and this is one of my favorite pages on my Notion because even though I do journal in an actual notebook, I think there's something really nice about the way that you can do it on Notion. I'll just show you my template because obviously my actual reflections are quite personal. This isn't an original journaling template. I did get this from somewhere, but really annoyingly I can't remember where, so I can't credit them. But I split this up into reflections on on the past month, things I achieved in the last month, intentions for the next month, and new things to try next month. Next, we have my 2022 reading list, and in here I'm just listing all of the books that I have read this year because it was one of my New Year's resolutions to read a lot more. So far I'm on my 6th book of the year, I think, which isn't great. I really wanted to read more than that, but I mean that's still averaging like 1 a month, which isn't bad. The next page is goals and future plans, and unfortunately I'm not going to show you too much on this page because it's all quite personal, but there's nothing really fancy about these pages. They're just lists of things that come to mind whenever I think about my goals and my future plans. I also do my New Year's resolutions on here. And then finally we have my recipes page, and there's not too much on this at the moment, but basically anytime I see a recipe on the internet I copy it over to here. I love how it comes up with the little image. That makes me so happy. I love the way that this page looks. So that is a whistle stop tour of my Life Hub page. Then if we go to the next section, I think they're called, on the left hand side, this is what I like to call my brain dump. So whilst my Life Hub page is really nicely organized with different kinds of pages and different tables and databases, my brain dump page is pretty much what it says on the tin, and every one of these pages is just a list of stuff basically. I used to do this on my notes app just on my phone. Whenever anything came to mind I would just jot it down there, but it got to the point where I had hundreds of random notes that I could never ever navigate, I could never go back to. So instead that is now all collated in my brain dump. So we have things like my friends' addresses and birthdays, and then recommendations that I've been given, notes for different TV shows and different things that I've read there as well. Just to show you an example, this is just a list of scenic places and walks in Leeds that my friend told me about. This is quite a fun page actually. So here I was planning out my summer wardrobe and I was highlighting the different items in the rough colour that they are to try and establish a colour scheme in my packing. So when I say that you can use Notion for pretty much anything, this is a prime example of that, because I have even put my wardrobe onto Notion. And then as I mentioned earlier, the archive section is just where I move all of my pages that I'm no longer using over to instead of deleting them. So yeah, that is my updated Notion tour. I hope this has given you some inspiration if you currently use Notion and are looking to update or add some new pages to your workspace. And if you don't and you are looking for a way to shape all of your ideas and your workflow and your general work-life balance, then make sure to check out Notion. I will have it linked down below in the description and you can download it there for free. I hope you've enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye!